This is the New York City FC Pregame Live. Tonight, New York City FC plays for a spot in the MLS Cup Final against the Philadelphia Union. And now, here are your hosts, Glenn Crooks and Matty Lawrence.
Yep, we're here to set the scene. He's Matty Lawrence. I'm Glenn Crooks. And an exciting night in Chester, Pennsylvania. As we look over Subaru Park to our left, we could see downtown Philadelphia, where earlier today the Eagles went to 7-0. So a lot happening in Philadelphia tonight. The Philadelphia Union are trying to advance to their first MLS Cup. And the opponents, New York City FC, for the second consecutive year in the MLS playoffs, the Eastern Conference Finals. A year ago was New York City winning right here 2-1. And remember that game, Matty?
I do.
Yeah.
I remember it very well. Unfortunately, we weren't here, though, were we? We were doing it from your basement and my apartment.
It's true. Thanks to Kisway Services and Vista World, we were able to still bring you that game. And when I listened back to it, I couldn't even tell that I wasn't here. But now we are here. Chris Sakonis, you can see him behind us on the broadcast. He'll be monitoring and hosting our halftime and postgame shows. But so let's go back to what was a magic moment at Subaru Park last year with the score tied 1-1 in the 88th minute. So here's how you heard it. The New York City FC Network. Now Morales on it. Edge of the circle, Philadelphia side of the pitch. Maxey now will drive it to the left. Well-placed ball. Bizo there. So is Goody. Goody has some room. Here's Magno. It's the go-ahead goal from Gudmundur Thorarensen. It's 2-1 New York City FC with only 2 minutes left in regulation in the Eastern Conference Final. You wonder, will that be the moment that sends New York City to their first MLS Cup Final? And it's Tylis Magno, the reserve striker here in the second half. Well, Tylis Magno. And the thing about Magno and this game tonight, he was the hero last year. Very doubtful for this one after suffering the hamstring injury last week in the victory at Montreal, which that was a professional win, Matty Lawrence. Before we leave last year's December the 5th matchup, we know New York City went on and won their first MLS Cup. Philadelphia trying to do the same after winning the Eastern Conference regular season. They're coming off a win over FC Cincinnati. But New York City, 3-1 at Montreal. Montreal was the somewhat heavy favorite in that one. They're at home with fantastic form going in. But so did New York City.
Yeah, look, Montreal were the better side for the majority of the first half. We know that. It's factual. But they conceded goals at the wrong times, at the beginning of the game and then just before half-time. So you have to credit NYCFC, and this is me being unbiased, you have to credit NYCFC with hanging in there, defending resolutely, solidly, even losing Chanel, of course, going to a flat back four, which didn't work. We know it didn't. They got absolutely battered. They got annihilated. And luckily for NYCFC, Kai Kamara couldn't head the ball on target from about 4 yards. Kone, the young, precocious talent, he couldn't score either. They both should have scored. It should have been 2 or 3-1 to Montreal at half-time. That's being honest. You know, it really should have been. They were much the better team. But we know this NYCFC team can do it. They can soak up pressure. They can almost find a different mindset at times as well. They were so outplayed in that first half after the goal. They went 1-0 up, of course, yes. Good goal. But then they were absolutely battered. They were outplayed all over the field. They could not, NYCFC couldn't lay a glove on Montreal. Montreal, though, couldn't finish a chance. If you don't hit the back of the net, it's tough. And we also know that Montreal know how to concede goals. They conceded 50 goals in their 34 league games. A dreadful time.
Well, it was a moment in that first half. So you heard Matty describe how Montreal had much of the play, and indeed Sean Johnson was helpful, and then the defending in a compact way was very helpful. And then Santi Rodriguez went back and won a ball and then started a counterattack, which led to this, as heard on the New York City FC network. This was certainly the seminal moment in this match. Santi Rodriguez working his way back defensively, does well, and he leads a break. It's 2 versus 2. Now it's 3 versus 2. Morales leading the way. On the right to Santi Rodriguez. Not a lot of pace for New York City. Now the ball to Eber. First time shot is a goal! At the death of the first half! New York City, it's been such a struggle since Maxi Morales opened the scoring in the 6th minute, and totally against the run of play. Santi Rodriguez started it, dropping very deep to defend, won the ball, got it to Maxi Morales, who led the break, and then the through ball to Eber, and the Brazilian finishes with a plum, first time to beat Pantomis. That he did, and certainly against the run of play. But what a massive goal. It changed the thinking of how to manage the rest of the game, and it went from there. But go ahead, and then we'll get to what happened in the second half.
Look, I hadn't realised until I just watched that again there that Montreal actually had a flat back four in place, and they got undone by one ball. That can't happen. It shows you why they conceded 50 goals. Yes, it was a terrific ball. It was. I give Rodriguez all the credit in the world. It was a terrific ball, but one ball was just taking the whole defence out of the game, and a terrific finish from Eber. But as you say, that changed the complexity of the game. It allowed Nick Cushing to change the formation. It allowed him to, let's be honest, take a chance on a young kid who's a centre midfielder and played him at centre half. But you had that 2-goal lead, and from there on in, I didn't think that Montreal were going to win. I really didn't. I thought with that 2-goal lead, NYCFC have that resolute ability to hold on to leads, and it was 2-0. And yes, they were under pressure, and yes, they dropped too deep too early on, but they soaked up the pressure and then obviously scored the third as well, which was the killer.
Well, you talked about Justin Hack. Prior to this season, Hack had not played a minute of MLS ball since 2019. Then he went on a run where he played in 15 of 17 matches, 6 of them starts. But then he became idle again, where players were coming back from injury, like a Maxime Chenot and Alexander Collins, a Thiago Martins, and it became a time where Hack was, back on the bench and not getting his opportunity. But then at halftime, Nick Cushing approached him and said, "We're putting you at the back. You're going to marshal the back three." And I asked Nick Cushing, and this will be part of our pregame show coming up starting at 8 p.m. Eastern on the New York City FC network. But I asked Cushing about inserting Hack at this pivotal time.
Yeah, I think we know Justin is a guy that's versatile. Okay, he's a midfield player, but he's got good defending qualities. He has the profile that he could be a central defender, although he hasn't got experience there. And I think we knew that as the game started to go, especially after the second goal, we knew Montreal would force the game because they have to. And we know that they're very, very dangerous at throwing crosses in. I expected them to stay with Kai Kamara, put Kyoto in. They had Mason Toy, that lends to putting a lot of crosses into the box. So with Justin Hack down the middle, we knew that we would be solid. If we're going to sit a little bit deeper, there's no space for Kyoto to run into, so it's going to be direct play. And he done a really good job of that, of winning first balls and, defending crosses. And, for me, I think it's a testament to the guy that he wasn't in the team a lot, and then he came in and did a good job. He then come out of the team and he can go straight back in and hit the ground running. He's a really good kid that works really hard.
So that was Nick Cushing talking about Justin Hack, who played 6 minutes of soccer in 3 appearances in 2019. And then remember, he came in as a reserve, replacing Maxime Chenot, who suffered an injury against Cincinnati and performed so well, had his opportunity and took advantage of it. You compare that to a Gideon Zalalem, who had an opportunity in the midfield as well, but perhaps didn't take the sort of advantage of that chance that Hack did. You take a Thiago Andrade, who got the opportunity to start at one point on a more regular basis, and he didn't take advantage of that opportunity. Hack did, and we'll have to wait and see if it's a three-back system with Hack in the middle, with Chanot quite doubtful coming off a hamstring, or will it be a back four, which Nick Cushing also intimated this week?
Look, I think that obviously we have to credit Justin Hack with the ability that he showed, the presence, the seniority almost. He felt like somebody who went in there and he played on the front foot straight away. It was the first challenge, wasn't it? A few seconds into the second half when he played on the front foot, probably was about 30, 35 yards from the goal, in the middle of the goal, and got in front of Kamara and took a whack in the chest, right? And it went on well from there. Look, also though, I've just written it in my notes here, you have to credit Nick Cushing. It was a really brave decision. It paid off. If it hadn't have paid off, we'd have been asking questions. You and I would have been asking questions. What on earth were you doing putting this kid in who hasn't got a great deal of experience at all, on the field at all, even in his regular midfield position? Now you're putting him as a centre half. Like, what are you doing? We would have been if they'd have lost.
Well, remember what he told us after the game? He just didn't feel like he had many other options, that they had decided as a staff that they're going to a back three again because they were just getting pummeled in the four-back system after that had to switch in the first half.
No, I agree, but I think that's almost Nick being a little bit self-deprecating there. It was a brave decision, whatever. He can say, we didn't really have we didn't have a great deal else we could do. He did. He had a number of other things he could have done. He did. He did.
Yeah.
As I say, I've just written a really, really brave decision. It really was, because if it hadn't worked, we'd have been castigating the head coach. And that's what a head coach gets paid for. He makes those big decisions, and it was a huge decision. And I would be very surprised if they don't go back or revert to that, the back three, because the four didn't work. Bizarrely, the four didn't work, which is, what everybody's accustomed to playing, a flat back four. And they looked all at sea, didn't they, the other day? They looked as though they didn't even know each other's names, let alone how to play as a back four.
No, it's true.
And I might be being a bit flippant, but I'm actually not. They struggled.
They did, and with the three-back system, this 3-4-3, which is why we think very strongly that that's the way they'll go, is because they've won 6 consecutive games in that shape. Nick Cushing, his record in all competitions, 11-8-5. There were a lot of questions when there was just 1 win in 10, but now 6 in a row. That includes the Campeones Cup and a couple of postseason games here in the MLS Cup playoffs, coming off the 3-1 win at Montreal. Well, I thought what was a somewhat amusing sight, but an encouraging sight, was Chanot went down with his hamstring last week in the 14th minute, and then he became Coach Chanot. So I addressed that with Nick Cushing on our pregame.
I'm going to call him Coach Chanot because he was doing a lot of directing along the touchline. I'm sure you're aware of this, but it was pretty interesting to observe.
Yeah, I think that shows the spirit and the togetherness that we have in the group. But, of course, in that moment, we wanted him on the pitch, but you can see the desire that he has, and I think the good thing for me is you see a guy that wants to give inexperienced guys like Justin Hack and those guys his experience, and he wants to play a part. And he could have sat on the bench and been incredibly disappointed and selfish, as so to speak, in the sense of thinking that his time was up in the game and he was disappointed not to be playing. But actually, he just did exactly what he does on the pitch, but off the pitch, and gave everything, and played a real supportive part from the side. So I think it's a testament to the group that we have here.
In the behind-the-scenes video that's done, I don't know if you watched those, but there was a moment where Chanot was at the whiteboard, the magnet board, with the Hack moving the players around, pointing it, and that's pretty impressive that he just took over like that.
I think that's the type of guy that he is. I think he knows where he is in his career. He still has a lot to give on the pitch, but he knows that he has a lot of knowledge and experience that he has gained across a really, really incredible football career. So when a guy like Justin Hack goes in that's inexperienced and has real inexperience in the position because he doesn't play as a defender, I don't have to ask a guy like Maxime Chanot to give some experience over. He adopts that role and understands that he's a vice captain here. He plays a leadership role in the team, so that when he can't give everything on the pitch, he has to do what he can off the pitch to make sure he continues to help the team.
All right, Coach Chanot. I love that scene in the locker room. The fact that there was a photo of that, I thought it was great just to show Chanot at the Magna board.
Yeah,
moving things around for Hack before he got out there.
I think, again, this looks, or it shows Nick Cushion had a good line. He could easily feel like he was being undermined there. He could have let his ego got in the way and said to Chanot, sit down, Will. You're not playing, you're not playing, sit down, ice your leg. But he let Chanot, be the leader, as he said, from the sideline. It certainly worked. As I say, I like that from Nick Cushion. Egos do not get in the way in this NYCFC dressing room.
All right, so I'm Glenn Crooks. He's Matty Lawrence, and LAFC. Yeah, what happened to your voice? All right, look it out there. All right, well, we'll push you through. I was getting a little sore throat last night too. We can't both lose it. LAFC defeated Austin earlier in the Western Conference Final, 3-0. That was at Bank of California Stadium, which home field advantage, no question. We know that here at Subaru Park, Philadelphia has not lost a game all year. That's 18 games they haven't lost, 13-0-5 all competitions. But in that 3-0 win, Arango got the game-winning goal in the 29th minute. And so LAFC awaiting the winner of this match for the MLS Cup, Matty. And Anton Tinnerholm is going to, I think, figure in pretty strongly tonight. But he's had a year that he'd probably like to forget from a soccer standpoint, all the injuries. So he came off the Achilles surgery, 265 days of competitive inactivity. He returns right here at Subaru Park on June the 26th against Philadelphia in the second half, and he played well. But then he started against Atlanta in the very next match and hurt his ankle. It's a high ankle sprain, misses 5 games, comes back and plays 4 games in 14 days, 90-minute matches, and you'll hear what he, the staff, and the medical staff thought about that, because he pulled his hamstring and then missed more time. So that's the kind of year it's been, and I spoke one-on-one with Anton after Friday's training session about some of this stuff.
To be honest, it's been the worst year in my life, football-wise, but it could also end in the best possible way, so I don't want to say too much, but it's been a tough one. It's been a really tough one. Like you said, when I came back, played against Philly, played against Atlanta, and it felt really good, and I felt my fitness was there and the touch on the ball was there, but then I was just in a 50-50 duel, and I thought it was nothing. I thought it was a twisted ankle, but then we did an MRI a couple of days later, and it was a high ankle sprain. It came from nowhere, to be honest, because I didn't feel any pain, and they said 2 to 6 weeks, and I was out for 6 weeks. So that was a really tough setback as well. After being out for 9 months, I have to add another 6 weeks, and I knew exactly what to wait in the gym. And the hamstring as well. That was that's something. We regret, me together with the physio and then the coaches today, that I played a little bit too much in a short term of games. But we had a lot of injuries at the time, so we didn't really have that much players. And then I pulled my hamstring, so it was a tough one, but pretty short. Now I'm feeling at my best, to be honest, and this is the time it matters. This is how the American philosophy is built, that it's playoffs, and now it's the time to shine, and I think we showed it the last couple of games. We've been winning like 6 straight games now, I think, and then we want to keep on going. And for me personally, I've been playing 290s now, and I played like 70-80 minutes against Atlanta as well, so I'm ready for more.
He says he's ready, Matty, and he's going to be needed tonight. And here's a guy. He's 31 years old now, but Tinnerholm has he's been one of those spiritual leaders, and he's very fiery, and we've seen that. He contests a lot of things with the referees, but most importantly, 23 assists in his 5-year career here with New York City FC, and coming out of Malmo, and he is a free agent, and with respect to the club and to Anton, I haven't really addressed that specifically, but there was a story written in Sweden where Anton was quoted, and the essence of it, I could paraphrase and things like that. but he's not going to another MLS team. He said definitively New York City played good football. He really loves it here. But Malmo, there appears to be a strong interest in bringing the favored son back to Sweden, where almost his entire family is. So you couldn't blame him for that. So we're not certain exactly what's happening there. And, he's beloved by the supporters for New York City FC. So the one thing I look at is any game you watch him play it's possible, he's a free agent. It could be his last game in a New York City uniform.
Absolutely. It depends how strong that urge is to go back home, doesn't it? We all know we all have an urge to go back home at some point, whether it's me living here in the US or at some point I'll go back home and live in the UK. Something that will happen. But he's still got a number of years left in the tank. That's what we know. So does he do another year or two here, then go back home for 2 or 3 years in Malmo? Who knows? We would really be speculating. What we do know is that he'll be a big loss, not only on the pitch and in the dressing room. He's a leader. He's a born leader. He may not have the captain's armband, but he is a natural leader and a natural winner. And I would, if I'm NYCFC, the powers that be, David Lee, Nick Cushing, I would be doing everything in my power to keep Anton Tinnerholm here.
You're getting a look at Subaru Park in Chester, Pennsylvania. It's a wonderful view. One of the great facilities because, in the daylight you can see it a lot better. But those lights that you see in the upper portion to the right, that's the Commodore Barry Bridge, which takes you back to the best state in the Union, New Jersey. So you cross the river. That's the Delaware River out there to our right. But here we are with New York City FC Soccer. I'm Glenn Crooks along with Matty Lawrence. And at 8 o'clock, we have our pregame show, which will feature both Nick Cushing and Anton Tinnerholm, presented by Ford. Before we depart, I wanted to play this clip from Jim Curtin, who's the Philadelphia coach. And you'll have to forgive me. We're getting some sort of feedback here. So one thing I'll do, I know where it's coming from, Matty. Man, am I smart, but I can't turn the mic off. All right. You just never know. It's Jim Curtin. I think he's a pretty fascinating story. So he's 9 years here with the Philadelphia Union. There were some years early on where they could have made the decision to relieve him of his duties. Yes. It wasn't going well. But he's a Philadelphia guy, went to Villanova University, went to Bishop McDevitt High School locally. He's a Philadelphia sports fan. And look, I mean, all kinds of things are happening. The Eagles played earlier today. They won their game. They're now 7-0. The Flyers are off to a good start. I don't want to forget the Phillies, who are in the World Series, much to the surprise of just about everybody in the baseball arena. And then you've got the Union with a chance to go to MLS Cup. So here was Jim Curtin a little bit earlier this week about the Philadelphia sports thing.
Yeah, when this many teams in the city do well, again, I was born in 79, so, my parents and I have some old T-shirts of all the championship teams from the 80s, the early 80s. I don't remember them. Obviously, I was 2 or 3 years old. But from what they're saying, what people are saying, it rekindles memories of that time in Philly where everybody was playing for championships, everybody was having success. The biggest thing I can say and feel in the city right now and the buzz, and yes, everybody does recognize our players now, and it's great. But I can tell you the energy of the fans, you can feel that with the players. Like they get a little bit more of a boost now as they come to work, that the Phillies are doing well, that they see the Eagles undefeated, the Sixers are just getting going, the Flyers have done well even at the beginning of the year. So, we all feel that. We all embrace it, and it's just positive. These guys they're human beings, right? Everybody thinks sometimes that these guys are cyborgs and they just come to work and they do their job and they're these phenomenal athletes and they're superheroes. But that's not the case. They feel the energy of people. They feel the desire to not let people down. When you see, Bryce Harper hit that home run, our guys are like, I want to be the guy that scores the big goal so I can get the accolades next in a team way. Don't get it wrong. But it's a great energy right now. The city is buzzing for sure. When you walk around, it's all Phillies, Eagles, Union talk. It's really cool to be a part of, and it's really cool that our players and the Phillies and the Eagles and the Sixers and the Flyers, they all kind of share the spotlight. Our guys are going to their games. Their guys are coming to our games. That camaraderie is real, and I think it's something that speaks to the growth of soccer for sure, because we're kind of new. We're the new team in town, let's be honest. But to see it almost be as equals now is something that I think we've worked very hard for in this city, and it's something that I'm very proud of as the leader of the team.
Well, we are covering New York City FC as we have over the years, so certainly we're hopeful that New York City gets to their second MLS Cup. But certainly here in Philadelphia, it's really been a great sports story, and embodying that is a guy like Jim Curtin, just a local guy doing good.
Yeah, it's wonderful for any city to have multiple teams being successful. If only Jim Curtin had told the local news channel, though, because we just watched the local news.
It was a local news. They just they just had gotten out of. They were doing a report outside of the Philadelphia Eagles game, and they were talking about all the great things the Phillies and the Flyers that open their season, the Sixers soon, and didn't mention that just about 7 miles down the road in Chester, Pennsylvania, the Union are playing New York City for a chance to go to MLS Cup. Didn't mention it, but I'm glad you brought that up.
No, it's a bit sad, you know.
Yeah,
we were talking about it. We get caught in our little soccer football bubble, and we think that everybody knows about it. But to see that on the local news channel, that they didn't even give a passing glimpse, a passing mention to a team fighting for an Eastern Conference championship. I don't know whether sad's the right word, but it's a bit demoralising, you know, for the Union, I think.
It can be. But I don't get caught up in the people that don't want to participate in the soccer scene. I think you just educate. You try to reach the people who are the young parents who have played the game, and it'll build.
No, I agree, but news is supposed to tell you about the news of what is going on in the local area.
Well, let's face it, local news is they have their own difficulties sometimes. Yeah. But to brighten up Matty's day before we break and get ready for our pregame, did you see this?
I did.
I know you did. You retweeted it, and I had no idea that quote up there is a lyric or a song from the Strokes.
Yeah, I always have the T-shirt. Well, not today, but it's Franz Ferdinand today.
No.
But yeah, normally it's
Well,
the
tell
Strokes.
us about this song, because my son also picked up on it, by the way. He saw this and got it right to me, and he said, wow, the Strokes represent it.
Exactly. Look, the Strokes are huge New York City bands. And, you know, Is This It was a phenomenal record in 2001. And, it transformed. Certainly, I learned about them back home. You know, I saw them down in Brighton in front of like 50 people, you know, before they'd even released a record. So the buzz almost started, in England and New York City. But, yeah, they're phenomenal.
So maybe that's what will happen with the Union in Philadelphia and New York City, where the tabloids, New York Post is starting to find their way, and they've been doing a fairly good job on the digital side. So all we can do is keep pushing and obviously playing well. And these two teams are playing well, and we're really pretty excited for this one, where New York City has a chance to go to their second consecutive MLS Cup after defeating Portland last year. There haven't been many to do that, Matty, and they're going to try to do that against a team that hasn't lost here at Subaru Park. The last time the same clubs played in back-to-back conference finals also, and that's what's happening tonight, was DC United against Columbus, 1997 through 99, the second, third, and fourth years of the league, which is now in its 27th season. So it's a lot of buzz here. Subaru Park, Chester, Pennsylvania, 8 p.m. Eastern. That's a half hour from now. We'll start our pregame. Kickoff is 8:25. We'll have the live commentary. I'm Glenn Crooks for Matty Lawrence. Chris Sakonis there behind us. He'll be hosting our halftime and postgame shows on the New York City FC Network, NYCFC app, and TuneIn. So thanks so much for joining us here, folks, and enjoy the game. Enjoy the broadcast. See you later.